Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, hope you're doing well. It's been a while since I last did a marathon training series, which was for the 2023 Sydney Marathon last year. Well, this year I'm back for another marathon, and that's going to be the 2024 Gold Coast Marathon. Okay, so why Gold Coast? Firstly, I kind of want to push my limits this year, and I heard that Gold Coast is a very flat and fast course. And the other reason is because the race is held in July, which is basically mid-winter here in Australia. So the race conditions should be pretty decent, maybe a bit sunny, but still fairly nice and cool, right? Don't get me wrong though, I'm still a big fan of the Sydney Marathon, even with its course profile and the top conditions from last year. And it is my home city marathon after all. Spoiler alert, Gold Coast won't be the only marathon doing this year. Okay, so after the Sydney Marathon race last year, I was planning to take it easy and do most of the recovery stuff for about 4 to 5 weeks before getting back into some 5k training. And recovery was going fairly well so far. However, about 2 weeks into the recovery, I actually ended up getting an injury. It was around the calf area, or rather the side of my left calf. And it is kind of embarrassing, but I can't recall the reason why it happened. There were a few heavy rainy days in early October, and I was doing my usual recovery and general aerobic runs throughout the week. And I'm not sure what I was thinking. Maybe I let the intrusive force take over, but on one of those heavy rainy days, I ended up kind of just bounding or doing like massive skips through all the deep puddles during the run on some slippery pavement and even like boardwalks. So yeah, I ended up straining the side of my left calf. I didn't really feel it throughout the run, but I definitely felt it a bit in the evening, and I thought it was a slight strain of some sort, which I've had before on the back of my calf during last year's marathon training, except this time it was on the side, which was like kind of unusual and new to me. I do think the bounding and skipping thing wasn't the only reason I got the injury. It's probably a bunch of other factors that led to it, you know, such as maybe like I ran too fast or too much too soon after the marathon race. Maybe it was like poor nutrition or like poor sleep. Maybe my shoes were even worn out, but believe me, there was no good reason for me doing those bounds and skips. Anyways, for a while, I did try my usual recovery routine, the kind of stuff I've always been doing for a while now, like foam rolling, stretching, self-massage, and so on. But it actually never got better. And to make things worse, I continued running through the injury, including another rainy evening run, dodging some more deep puddles. I even did like a quick 5k time trial at a park on Saturday, and then a long run in like various terrain, including sand and gravel the very next day. And to top it off, I didn't even get checked up by like a physical therapist or whatever. I kept thinking, surely this is something that would probably go away quite soon by just doing like the usual recovery stuff, right? But yeah, I was wrong there. It got pretty bad to the point where I couldn't run at all without feeling bad. It wasn't super painful at any point. It was more like a blunt and deep soreness. I had to just take plenty of days off, and luckily I was able to walk, so it wasn't too bad, I guess. It took me a few weeks of more walking, testing my running, and being disappointed before I decided, you know, whatever I was doing wasn't really helping. So I looked into calf anatomy. I figured it's likely the peroneus longus tendon or something that's around the area that's affected. And then I tried some resistance exercises on it, and it actually made it better over time. I tied the resistance band around like an anchor point, for example, something heavy like a sofa, and then the other side around my ankle, and twisted the band outwards. I think the proper term for that is called like eversion, for a bunch of reps and sets daily. I think if it's a tendon issue, after the point you're fairly well rested and have stopped running for a while, you can't just let it sit around or stay weak forever. So the idea is to load the tendon and get it used to feeling strong and confident again. After all, I think tendons are supposed to be fairly strong naturally to support our frame and to also, I guess, provide structure to our bones and muscles or something. So yeah, I kept doing that specific resistance exercise and similar ones with the resistance band. Yeah, just like doing different angles with my ankle and stuff, combined with the usual foam rolling, light stretching, ball under the foot, self-massage, and so on. And it slowly got better over time. Then I started adding some like recovery runs and also my general aerobic runs, plenty on grass as well, and ramped up the mileage slowly. And yeah, overall it took about like 6 weeks in total for the injury to go away from when it first occurred. To this day, I still do the resistance band eversion thing daily just in case. And of course, moving forward, there's no more silly skipping or like bounding in puddles, I guess. Okay, so after the calf injury thing went away, I ramped up my mileage back to like around 60 to 70 kilometers per week over a few weeks, and decided to jump onto some 5k training over the summer. I didn't want to be out running too long or do like massive long runs in the heat, right? Those of you who are from Australia know exactly what I'm talking about. It was such a brutal, humid summer for us, and even though it's early autumn nowadays, somehow it's still fairly warm. The other thing is I did lose a fair bit, but not too much fitness from the injury downtime, so it was gonna take a while before I was gonna get back to into my goal shape anyway. So yeah, figured I didn't want to do too much high mileage, I guess. I ended up using Pfitzinger's faster 5k racing book for the 12-week 5k training program, specifically the 45 to 55 mile or 71 to 88 kilometer a week variation. Long story short, training did go fairly well, even though I wasn't able to go as fast in training as I would have liked, mostly because it was just so humid all the time. I did end up getting a 5k PB at the end of the training cycle, I guess, which was like around 17:12 or something at Rhodes Park Runs. It was actually 1 week after the program ended, surprisingly. But yeah, that still wasn't as fast as I was aiming for, which is like anything below 17 minutes. There were a couple of 5k tune-up races throughout, including a 5k race on the track for the first time ever. Those races didn't go as well as I was hoping. It was either too humid and wasn't as willing to push as hard, or just wasn't as focused or feeling it throughout. But yeah, it should be okay though. I know you can't really rush fitness. I'm glad I didn't train too hard over the summer and mostly spent time running by feel and like getting used to adjusting my effort. Plus I also did plenty of exploring of routes around the area, which really helped with the upcoming marathon training, I guess. Overall, I did end up getting fairly fit again while still enjoying my runs. Anyways, back to this whole Gold Coast Marathon stuff. In terms of training, this time I'm still gonna follow Pfitz's 18-week training program, except I'm gonna try his 70 to 85 mile variation. It's practically the same thing I did as last year, except with maybe a bit more mileage overall. This time the program peaks at around 140 kilometers, which is insane. That's peak by the way. It's not average. Average is like around 110 I think, or 120. And last year I maxed out at around 130 kilometers I think. I don't think I'll reach 130 kilometers this time since I'll probably skip some recovery doubles. But yeah, I do want to make it clear that even though I feel fairly fit, high mileage is pretty risky stuff in general, so I have to be super careful and really listen to my body and like also adjust the program if I feel the need to. But yeah, I really enjoyed the simplicity of the program from last year's training, and I think it worked just fine for my schedule and preferences. So yeah, might as well give it another shot this year, I guess. Okay, so what's different this time? In terms of training and mileage, some of the obvious differences to me is that I'll be doing recovery runs on Monday, which is usually an off day for me. I've been so used to it being an off day for like a year now, I guess. There's also sometimes 2 recovery doubles a week, but that leads me to saying that I will be adjusting the program to how I feel. For example, it's quite likely that I won't be doing those double recovery runs. I'll probably just do the runs in the morning and not the evening. Not really a fan of running in the evenings. I would rather much spend that time on like chilling, relaxing, an occasional outing and so on. And maybe in regards to intervals, I might even try like standing recovery instead of like jog recovery. But yeah, pretty much like stuff like that. Another big difference is also where I run. I'll mostly be doing my weekday runs near my place. I think when you're doing high mileage training, it's pretty good to put convenience first. I did spend some time exploring my area a bit more over the summer and end up finding some really nice routes, I guess. I definitely miss Sydney Lim Park for my medium long runs, for example, but if I can get it done nearer to my place, I'll take it. Weekend runs can be a bit more social, of course, maybe even some group rather than like solo long runs. In terms of shoes, since last year's training, I've retired my Brooks Hyperion Tempo and also one of the 2 pairs of New Balance Field Cell Rebel V Frees I have. I've also gotten a new pair of Saucony Endorphin Speed Frees, which I'll probably be using a lot for my intervals and long runs. I've also brought back my Saucony Triumph 20s, which I'll probably use for recovery runs. And I did get a Puma Deviate Nitro Elite 2 for very cheap online. And occasionally I will use them for like faster runs such as like Tempo, Threshold, and Super Rain Days as well. It just has really good grip. My current Speed Frees are still being used for my general aerobic runs and also my medium long runs. They're almost at like around 1200 kilometers of running margin, but they still feel fairly decent. However, I will be keeping a really close eye on them just in case they start to feel bad. I might start using the Saucony Endorphin Pro Frees for my marathon pace long runs and probably still some fast races here and there, like for 5k, 10ks or whatever. Nothing too long, I guess. And finally, I will keep an eye out for like a new marathon racing shoe, I guess. So in terms of my goals, firstly, let's go through my current PBs. The first one is 17:12 for 5k at Park Run last month. At the end of the 12-week training, 36:48 for the 10k at Sun Run last month. Definitely could have raced that a bit better, but I actually made a little vlog that day and spent more effort trying to hold the GoPro steadily during the race. For the half, it's around 1 hour 25 minutes at the moment. For that PB, I actually got it like a few weeks back in like a random long run. I still haven't ever done a proper half marathon race before. And finally for the marathon, my PB is still at 3 hours and 1 minute, of course from Sydney Marathon last year. Based on those PBs and also how I've been feeling over the summer, I do feel like I have a bit more experience now and like should be okay to aim for like something a bit ambitious again, like around 2 hours 45, 2 hours 50 finishing time for the Gold Coast Marathon. However, that might change and we'll have to see how it goes since mileage will be fairly high and like, you know, injury risk will be high as well. And I'll mostly be running by feel this time around. Okay, with all of that out of the way, I have already started the training program as of last week. So let's quickly go through a recap of week 1's training. I do want to say that I did have some thoughts about recording my training throughout the week on the GoPro, but honestly, nah. I'd rather just run and enjoy my training rather than like carry a camera around. Okay, so Monday was 8k recovery run. Did it on grass at Bankstown City Sports Complex. I think I'll try to do most of my recovery runs on the grass to save the legs and feet for the workouts throughout the week. Saturday tends to be a recovery run day as well, but I'm happy to just go to park runs instead. Tuesday was a 14k run with 6k's at lactate threshold pace. I did it around the Salt Pan Creek Reserve in Riverwood. I think it was somewhat a conservative effort. The program's just started and may as well ease into it. I've been doing a lot of my fast runs at Salt Pan Creek Reserve these days, and it's not particularly flat, so I might as well just stay in check whenever I can, I guess. Wednesday was a 19k medium long run. I did along the M5 linear park. Ended up doing like around 18.3 kilometers, which is fine. This is one of the routes I explored more during the summer, and I found it's fairly enjoyable for my medium long runs. It's probably not the best route since I do have to like cross some streets and like go up some stairs and like bridges, but I'm pretty familiar with it by now, so yeah, it works pretty well, I guess. Thursday was 10 kilometers recovery, again on grass at Bankstown City Sports Complex. I forgot to mention, but the grass oval does get fairly wet in the early mornings. It's not really what you want to run on the first thing in the morning, but it's kind of refreshing and it's still a bit more relaxing than running on pavement all the time, I guess. I've also been doing loops on the smaller individual fields rather than the full loop. It's a bit safer for me and like less chance of like a twisted ankle since it's pretty dark early morning. Friday was a 16k general aerobic run down at Riverwood and like more towards like the Pecos area. I also did some exploration on the local streets as well. It can get a bit hilly around the area, which I guess keeps it interesting. Saturday was a 10k recovery. I did it at the classic Rose Park run, which has around 600 to 700 park runners each week nowadays. It's been a while since I started doing it back, and yeah, it's crazy crowded now. I also wore my trunks specifically to keep me in check at most recovery effort. And finally, Sunday was a 27k long run. I did it at Paramount Park with my good mate Gib. I believe he's also trained for like a sub 3 hour marathon. He had like a 6x3k at marathon pace effort with like 1k float in between, long run kind of workout. And even though there isn't any marathon pace scheduled for my long run, I figured I was okay to go along with his workout as long as I don't go overboard. Overall, solid workout and felt fairly strong throughout. Somehow we did miss a rep, but we did manage to beat the heat, so yeah, that was good. So anyways, I ended the first week on about 103 kilometers of mileage, feeling fairly solid overall. We're in the 6-week endurance block at the moment, so it's mostly aerobic stuff for a good while. Might as well ease into it. But yeah, that's pretty much all to say for now. I really gotta get back now, so thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.